Today, we're digging into a pretty surprising economic story. It's all about how one country is completely rewriting its export playbook and, get this, starting to compete in some of the world's absolute toughest markets. Let's jump right in.
Okay, so I want you to picture this. You're walking through Berlin, the heart of German engineering, and this sleek, modern electric city bus pulls up. You happen to glance at the manufacturer's logo and, wait, it was made in Egypt? I mean, that sounds pretty unlikely, right?
Well, believe it or not, this isn't some far-off hypothetical scenario. Our analysis shows this is happening right now, today. Egyptian-made industrial goods are finding their way right into the center of Europe.
So let's unpack this. How is this even possible? This is a story about a country breaking through some serious barriers and learning to meet the incredibly high standards of the world's most demanding markets.
You know that electric bus in Berlin? It's really just the tip of the iceberg. What it truly represents is a much, much bigger story. A major pivot in Egypt's whole economic identity, moving away from its traditional exports to something way more ambitious.
And we're not just talking about a few cool examples here and there. These stories are backed up by a huge and, frankly, historic surge in the actual numbers. So, let's take a look at the data.
For a long time, when you thought about Egypt's non-petroleum exports, you were mostly thinking about things like agricultural products and raw materials. But what we're seeing now is a total game changer. The focus has shifted to industrial goods, products that are manufactured, engineered, and have a ton of value added to them. It's the difference between selling raw cotton and selling a high-tech piece of clothing.
And this chart really just puts it all into perspective. Before 2022, these kinds of exports were kind of hovering around the $35 billion mark. Now, the projection for 2025 is almost $50 billion. That is a massive leap in a really short amount of time.
Yeah, that $50 billion figure, the analysis we're looking at calls it a historic milestone. For the first time ever, the industrial sector is really leading the charge, and that signals a much deeper, more sustainable kind of economic growth. So where is all this growth actually coming from? The data is one thing, but the real story is in the specific products and the companies that are making this happen. Let's look at a couple of really cool, concrete examples. Okay, so let's go back to those buses. The company's called MCV. They're an Egyptian manufacturer, and they just poured a ton of money into R&D and modern production lines. They didn't just build a bus, they built one that could pass the European Union's famously tough safety and performance tests. And now, they've actually signed deals to supply German cities, and have even opened a support branch right there in Germany. That shows they are in this for the long haul. And it's not just vehicles. This next example is maybe even more amazing because it highlights the incredible level of trust being built. There's an Egyptian company, BioBusiness, that is now supplying German hospitals with precision medical equipment. We're talking about devices for blood pressure, respiration, even surgery. They earn this trust by getting those critical European ISO certifications. And get this, the trust is now so high that some German companies actually have them manufacture products that are then sold under a German brand name. Wow.
So here's the really crucial point. Germany is seen as the ultimate benchmark. If your product can succeed in the German market with its sky-high standards and picky consumers, it's like getting a golden stamp of approval. That can open doors for you across the entire European continent.
Now, this kind of success, it doesn't just happen by accident. It's the result of a very deliberate, very coordinated strategy. So let's break down the how, the actual game plan that's making this industrial export boom possible.
At the heart of this whole strategy is something the source material calls a public-private synergy. It's a fancy term, but it basically just means the government and private companies decided to team up. It's not one or the other, but a powerful combination of both working towards the exact same goal.
And this whole thing breaks down into a pretty clear three-pillar approach. First, you've got the government making exports a national priority, doing things like offering support and making customs way easier. Then, you see the private sector really stepping up, investing in modern factories built specifically for exporting. And finally, the glue that holds it all together is a shared focus on meeting global standards by chasing after those all-important quality certifications.
But what's really fascinating is that this current success, it's just one phase of a much bigger, long-term vision. The country isn't just sitting back and celebrating that $50 billion milestone, it's already got its eyes on the next one.
And that next goal is, well, it's incredibly ambitious. The official target set for the year 2030 is to hit $145 billion in total exports. To put that in perspective, that's nearly triple the current record level.
And look at how they're planning to get there. According to the plan, a staggering $118 billion of that total, that's over 80%, is expected to come from industrial exports. This just shows a complete all-in commitment to making advanced manufacturing the main engine of the country's economic growth.
And this isn't just some number written on a piece of paper. The plan is backed by real, concrete actions, huge investments in expanding ports and transport networks, digitizing government processes like customs to make them way faster, and strategically targeting new, non-traditional markets all across Africa, Asia, and Latin America.
You know, it all leads us to this one big question. From buses driving around Berlin to medical devices being used in German hospitals, we've seen clear evidence of a nation in the middle of a really profound shift. It seems to take a potent mix of private ambition, smart government strategy, and just an unwavering, relentless focus on quality. The only question now is, how far can this transformation really go?